I would die for you. We're talking Prince and Another Lonely Christmas. Hit it. It was 1984. Sally Field won an Oscar. Kevin Bacon helped a small town cut loose. Truman Capote passed away. And Prince released a tragic Christmas song as a B-side to a Purple Rain smash hit. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me is a very special guest. From the Tis the Podcast group, it's Carie Brown. Carie, how's it going?
It's going really well. I'm doing really well. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Whenever I meet another Prince fan, it's, the more the merrier.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, the purple one has always kind of been in my life. As far as back as I can remember, there's always been Prince on the radio in some ways, all the way up until like when I was in college and, CDs were starting to be, I guess, were popular. And so I remember he released like that 2 album, greatest hits. And, with the B-sides as well. And I was like, I need this, and I just remember playing that, like I was more into like classic rock and stuff like that. But for some reason, I gravitated towards that album. And I just, from there went back and just really dug deep into all his repertoire. And he's just been, he's amazing. He's an amazing musician.
Musical genius.
Yeah. It's crazy. But what are your general thoughts on Prince? Like, what's your history?
Well, I always laugh when people ask me about this because I was born in 1975. So I remember Prince prior to the Purple Rain and all of that. Mm-hmm. But then I also think mom and dad, like, what were you doing letting me, my parents were young parents and, I was a military brat, so we moved around a lot. But my memory, to be completely honest with you, I was probably like way too young to remember, but I remember the bandana, the red bandana around his neck, or the black bikinis and the boots. Yes. And I remember my mom had like this little flyer and she was going to a Prince concert. Well, it was a Rick James concert and Prince was opening for him.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
And
nice. That's a good concert.
And, that's back with Soft and Wet and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
and so early on, a young girl, I knew who Prince was. So he's literally been in my life since I can remember, if you will.
Right.
So, yeah.
Nice.
So I have a very long memory and history with him.
I like his early stuff. It's more funky, and of course I'm big into jazz. And so, whenever I hear funk, it's got that jazz element. It's basically, funk is basically fusion of, jazz and like R&B kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And so I love just listening to all that stuff. And then his later stuff too, with Third Eye Girl, mm-hmm. He started going more again towards the funk. Yes. And it's like, he was really good at it.
Absolutely.
It just blows my mind every time. It's, the guy was like a virtuoso on guitar. I love
Tom Petty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah. You read my mind.
Yes.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When he was playing on, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it's like Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne from ELO and Steve Winwood from Traffic and George Harrison's son, Donnie Harrison, and then Prince just comes out and like kills it. It's like one of the greatest guitar solos I've ever seen, and I love how
he could do it. He could do that. Like, I feel like if anyone else would have tried that, we all would have been like, "How arrogant are you?"
That's true.
How appropriate are you? But it was Prince. so it was like, it was okay.
Well,
So
it's funny because he was just kind of in the background, just kind of playing the chord. And then all of a sudden, when it was solo
yeah,
time, I mean, he like exploded, and it was
absolutely.
phenomenal. And then he just tossed the guitar into the crowd.
But I mean, the passion that he played with just
Hmm.
confirmed that that was his gift. Like,
Yeah,
and he played so many instruments, but I mean, the
yeah.
guitar is what everyone is, most familiar with. And I mean, he mastered it.
Totally. I mean, and you think back to like the Purple Rain movie, where it's just, he's finally had that epiphany after his father's like, shot himself, and he's listening. He finally like sits down and listens to their, the Purple Rain demo, and he starts playing on piano, and it's just him and solo piano, and
Yeah,
it's amazing. You're right. He
absolutely.
played
Like,
so many different instruments that, I mean, and he was really good at most of them,
absolutely.
or at all of them, I should say.
He played more than most, but I mean, I could just rave about him all day, but I know we have a, a lot of things to get through.
We do. It's still banter time. We're okay. Okay. I hate to put you on the spot, but I got to know. Okay. Favorite Prince song?
So people ask me this all the time, and a lot of people are always like, it's really hard for me to choose just one because he's so great. So, and I would copy that sentiment, but I would also say that there's one song that I always say is my theme song because I can definitely relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
And my sweatshirt might give you a clue, but the song Controversy,
Nice.
because I can relate to that song so much. Everything that he says when he talks about the questioning that people have of him,
Mm-hmm.
like, am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I
Right.
have grown up with that narrative. So I feel like that is definitely one of my favorite songs, but it's one that I personally connect to as well.
Wow, that's yeah, and that's not one that most people think of when they think of Prince's favorite song. Usually you hear like
Exactly.
Purple Rain or When Doves
Yep.
Cry or something like that.
All
Uh,
great songs.
they are for me, and I asked a bunch of my friends at work too, and one of them said Purple Rain because of her dad. That was like,
Mhm.
every time it's one of his favorite movies, and every time it's on, he like walks in the room and just pretends like he's got a lighter in his hand, and like not even with his
That's
phone.
awesome.
It's just he just pretends he has a lighter. And then I asked another friend, and she said that her favorite was like Darling Nikki, and I thought, well, that's
Yeah.
another one
Wow, that's an interesting song to be.
that's exactly right. I guess I'm kind of boring because as much as I really like some of his deeper stuff, Pop Life is great. But
Yes.
I really love Raspberry Beret. I don't know why.
That is a great song.
I love that song. It's one of those, the melody gets me every time.
Mhm. I hear that song almost every day, actually. Like, it's part of one of my that's on rotation all the time. But I think that's a great song
Yeah.
and it makes sense that it could be someone's favorite song.
Yeah.
What he's talking about is very relatable, and then it's also very nostalgic to the time of when it
Hmm.
came out and things like that. So I think that's a great song to count as a favorite.
I'll never forget the video with the
Right?
sky in the background, and
I just love when he coughs and they just kept it in there.
they just,
Like, this is part of the song. We're just
only
it's
Prince could
fine.
get away with
It's fine.
that.
So I love that. But yeah, but he does have, it is really hard to narrow it down to like one really great song.
Yeah, yeah. I think most people would pick, at least as far as an album go, they'd probably pick Purple Rain.
Of course.
Which I mean, I get it. It makes sense. The movie was a huge hit. Like well, every single song I should say on there is phenomenal. Even
Absolutely.
Darling Nikki.
Yes.
I actually really like Computer Blue as well. That's just one that's like,
Yes. And
it's
I
something.
find it hilarious in Purple Rain that he's supposed to be the artist that nobody likes, and yet he's playing all these great hits that
Mhm.
are amazing. Like, all these performances that are supposed to be bad are like
Right.
my favorite parts of the movie.
Meets, yeah, exactly. I think, you can tell like he's in with like Let's Go Crazy, but as soon as he starts going into the more obscure ones, everybody's like, what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I actually used to perform. I used to like put the record jacket out and performed the songs from 1999 for my
Nice.
parents, believe it or not. Once again, too young to probably know what
To
happened.
realize what you were singing about.
The 80s were a different time, though. You
They
know,
sure
I was a
were.
70s baby and an 80s kid. So, you know, that times were different.
You know, I think about
But
all
yeah,
the
1999.
well, yeah, I mean, I get it. I think about all the movies that like I watched that I probably shouldn't have watched, you know, Predator and Terminator and Commando, and I mean, you know, all those. It's like, why was this little
You're
kid watching
mentioning some of
that?
the more mild ones.
That's right. Yeah, there were some that were much worse. But
And I literally, to this day, when something like that will pop up, I will be like, and my parents are around, I'm like, Mom and Dad, like, why?
like, really? Yeah.
My brother turned out great. We were not sheltered from anything.
Yeah.
You know, but my parents, they were 19 and 21 when they had both. Me and my brother are 11 months apart. So
Oh, wow.
we grew up almost like twins. And it's just like, we laughed because we are we're not conservative, but compared to how our parents raised us, you would think that we were. So.
Right. Yeah. I gotcha. And it's funny because I'm the same way. It's like, well, you know, I'll be watching something and then my daughter comes in and it's like, nope, you know, sorry, you can't watch this with me. Which is so funny because I know I saw worse, but oh well.
It was the 80s. It's a different time.
That's
now.
right. It's completely different. Yeah, 1999, that was another great album. Delirious, again, another one of my favorites. And I love the track 90. And I know I'm kind of delaying. We'll get into it in a bit, but I love 1999. I like how he originally wrote, you know, the melody and then he like broke it up into the different parts. And so each one is singing like a harmony as the melody. Absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those things that you wouldn't think of, but it works. You know, and with, you know, Lisa singing one and then you got Dez singing another one. And I mean, it's just, it really hits home.
Mind.
That's right. Yeah. Dude could get it.
He lived and breathed the music. Like that was everything to him. So, you know, he did it well. He did it the best as far as I'm concerned, but you know.
No, I completely agree. It's funny because I think I read that he had like over 50 like fully produced albums in the vault that just haven't been released. Which I get, I believe it. You know, that's one of those, like you hear, even if it's not true, it's like, I believe it just because of how prolific he was.
Well, his engineer, I mean, I've obviously read a lot of books and a lot of things about Prince. I own a lot of books. But with his engineer, we get like, she said, if lucky, like 3 hours of sleep a night. Like that's how much he was just like.
What's her name? Rogers, right?
Roger, yeah.
Susan Rogers.
Susan Rogers.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine that. And you know, it's funny because I remember like back in the day I could do that, but now I don't think I could do that. And then to have like to be able to stay focused to get all the recording done and the mixing. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to give it props to her as well for actually being able to keep up with them. You know, that's fantastic.
That's a task.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it.
No, I definitely couldn't.
Prince was raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, you know, his particular sound, and again with like the time and folks from that era, you know, other groups. I mean, they pretty much labeled it the Minneapolis sound. You know, it's notable for its keyboards and its funky kind of guitar and you know, things like that. And like I mentioned, it's kind of a fusion of you know, of like jazz and funk and rock and R&B all together. And I like how Prince took that and kind of would work with other groups or like start side projects as well to just so he could release more music. Like I didn't even realize, and you know, I have just about everything he's done, but I didn't even realize that in 2019 he came out with like, or you know, posthumously, that Originals album, where it's just his demos from, you know, that of all the songs that he wrote for other people.
Manic Monday, like everything that people know and a lot of people had no idea that he had anything to do with them. But yes, that when that came out, I remember several of my friends reaching out to me like, did you know? And I'm like, of course I knew. I mean, I never heard it. But if you're into music and you look, like, yes, I do know that was one of his songs, but I had never heard him singing it, of course.
Yeah.
And now there's videos of him actually performing some of them, and things like that.
And I gotta say, I kind of like his versions better than the originals.
I have to agree with you there.
As much, and I love the Bangles, but I think I prefer Prince's Manic Monday. And
Yeah.
same thing, I like Apollonia, or excuse me, what is it, Apollonia
Sheila E.
6, but
Oh,
I still prefer
oh,
his
Apollonia
Sex
6.
Shooter, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You
I was
know.
thinking
Oh, you're thinking Vanity?
Glamorous Life.
Oh, Sheila E. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like his version too. I mean, it makes
Yeah,
sense for
I
like a
do too.
girl to sing it.
Absolutely.
But at the same
Most of
time,
them,
it just,
but he still sounds amazing
he
singing.
still does. He sounds so good on it. It's crazy.
Exactly. No, I agree with you 100%. That was such a
Yeah.
gift, like when that came out.
Yeah.
No. And to hear him actually, and to be an artist that actually wrote those songs for someone else, but still, recorded it and performed it,
Yeah.
like that's not very common to happen. But
Well, what's interesting is that a lot of the acts that covered him didn't stray that far from like his arrangements. I mean, they
true.
stayed really close to what he did. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so, I mean, that's just a testament to, to him and his skill.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But today we're really here to cover the 1984 song, Another Lonely Christmas.
Yes.
It was a B-side to I Would Die for You. And this is one that I hadn't heard till years later. This one kind of passed me by in the 80s, and I didn't hear it till again I was in college, and I was like, wow, this song is amazing. I think if I had heard it when I was younger, it would have totally changed my perspective on a lot of Christmas things.
Yeah.
Because I'm more of I mean, I'll admit I'm much more of the happy, upbeat Christmas guy, but I mean, the song itself is it's so deep and powerful, it's just the lyrics really get to you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember the song. I was huge into records. We had me and my brother had a record player because we got in trouble for using my parents' record player so much and playing their records. So we had our own. And I definitely remember it was the B-side of I Would Die for You.
Mm-hmm.
And it did later come out on the B-sides. Like I think you mentioned earlier, the B-sides. I was going to say tape, but I think it was a CD.
Yeah. I just say album and kind of keep it generic.
Right? But
tape would definitely date us.
Exactly. But I love the nostalgic Christmas feels and the, like you were saying, the fuzzy Christmas feels and all that. But I always think that there's also a good balance and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like there can be a good balance. And I think that that's what this song kind of, portrays for me, because all of the Christmases are not always happy-go-lucky like that.
It's true.
And I spent a lot of Christmases. So I was in the military for 25 years. I retired 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. And I spent several Christmases deployed. And for whatever reason, like we found more comfort sometimes in things that were a little bit more melancholy and things like that, because we're away from our family. So it might sound a little twisted, but like songs like that, I can definitely still get warm Christmas feels from, if that makes sense. Even though it's not meant to be a warm song, but I think it all is a Christmas experience, because all Christmas experiences are Christmas experiences unless they're anti-Christmas. So,
No, I mean, I get it. You think about the song "I'll Be Home for Christmas," I'll be home for Christmas. I mean, that's very melancholy. Absolutely. And it ends really sad at the end, but only in my dreams.
Exactly.
So yeah, I completely get it. And yet at the same time, it's like you hear it and you think of, I mean, it just makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
So this is one like that for me. It's one that I don't think I would have picked up on. Like I wouldn't have picked up the album or picked up the record and say like, this is Christmassy. But now it's to the point where I heard it so much. It's like, I immediately think of Christmas as soon as it comes on, And it's funny because musically, it's very R&B. There's a lot of just simple chord progressions that are standard for for rhythm and blues kind of thing, but he throws in some augmented chords, or not augmented, but some color chords here and there, that are not in the non-diatonic chords. So like a G in the key of B. G doesn't belong in the key of B at all, and yet he throws it in.
In Prince's music, it does.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He makes it work, and he makes it work because it's almost like a German augmented sixth that goes down, to the, like a flat. I mean, it's just. Yeah, it's Prince.
I've done my research on you, and I just absolutely love watching you completely like glow when you're talking about music. I might not know everything you're talking about when it comes to like getting down to the roots of it, but listening to you talk about it and how happy it makes you is very entertaining. I like it.
I love music, especially music theory, because it's some things just don't belong, and yet a good artist, a good composer can make it belong and make it sound like it's always supposed to be there. And that's what happens, so like the song, I mean, there's no real intro. It's just kind of, like a little slide, on the bass, and then it just kind of starts right into it. And it starts off with, the one chord, the B, and then it goes to like the six minor. And then from there it goes to the three minor. So, that's kind of standard progression there. That's not too bad.
Yes.
But then it goes to five. You're like, okay, so I know five is going to go back to one, and it does. And here's where he changes it. We're on the one, then all of a sudden on the "you should have been there," it's like, it's so genius because he doesn't stay in the key on the "you should have been there." It's something outside the key, just like she's now outside of his Christmas experience.
You think he's gonna zig, he zags.
That's right. It's that whole color painting or word painting, that he makes happen with the music, and it's fantastic. I mean, every time I think about it, it's like, wow, that's so good.
Yes. Oh my God, I love your mug.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is my favorite Christmas mug because it's as big as my face. So
see this on my glass or not?
Oh, nice. I love that. The love symbol.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Yes, in the 93, 94-ish, Prince did change his name to a symbol.
Yes, the artist formerly known as.
Yep.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just the funny. Artist, but. I
have this picture of it's like two martini glasses at a bar, like one is empty, the other is full, and it was like on Christmas Eve. It was like, I don't know, 12 years ago, and I was like in the middle of a really bad breakup, and I'm at like this little bar in Columbus, Ohio, having a drink, sad because this all this is happening, right. The end of the world, right? And
yeah, understandable. So because
that picture pops up every time I hear this song. But once again, it's not a terrible thing because it's like I'm in a much happier place now, and that was just a memory. And the fact that I don't know if anybody who's listening has ever been to a bar on Christmas Eve, but that's where the lonely people go, right?
Yeah. So, I would imagine, yeah.
I have more memories of the conversations and the people that I completely felt bonded with during that time, and so it's not a terrible memory.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I kind of know what you mean. Nothing that dramatic, but I remember one time I was supposed to go play at church on Christmas Eve. Like they were going to pay me. It was like I was hired to just go in and play guitar and sing and backups and stuff like that. And it had kind of like snowed and iced a little bit here, which is just strange for Texas. That's pretty rare, So I remember it took me about an hour and a half to get from my apartment to the church, and I barely made it in time. But that's like one of the most vivid Christmas memories that I have, is just being in my car, trying to sing the harmonies that I'm going to sing, in my head, and like being so careful, making sure that I don't, because the roads were completely backed up. I mean, I had to find all sorts of alternates, that kind of thing. I was like, calling the people that hired me, like, I'm on my way, I'm here. The roads are terrible. Yeah. I mean, it was, it was crazy.
That gives me so much anxiety just thinking about it. because I'm like, I cannot stand to be late for stuff. Like,
Me too. Yeah. I mean, that's, I was a band director. I was in band and I lived, all my life. It's been to be early is to be on time and to be on time is to be late,
exactly.
So that was one of those like, oh, am I going to make it? And it was terrible. So
That's
there was
another
a bit
parallel
of,
between band and military, let me tell you.
there's a lot of correlation.
Yeah. You're on time, you're late.
That's right. Yeah. And later on, I heard someone add, and to be late is to be fired. So,
Wow, now that's extreme.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Talk
okay,
about
yeah,
anxiety inducing.
right. But yeah, so the song itself, it's again, it's in B. It's a lot of just 1-4-5s and just standard, But I love how my favorite part of the line, which I may or may not be singing later, when he's like, "You are the only one I care for." It's a really, really like standard R&B kind of rhythm chord progression. So it's like you go to G sharp minor, F sharp, E, and then B. So it's really it's like the 6 minor, then 5-4-1. And that 4-1 kind of adds as like a little plagal cadence, but it works. It's something that was picked up from like gospel music and incorporated into R&B, and it's just I love this line. That whole musical part. That's like my favorite part of the whole thing. Of course, it's in the chorus, so we get to hear it several times. So it's great.
I love that.
Lyrically, though, the song is kind of depressing.
Oh yeah. To say the least, yeah, it is. It is. I mean, losing someone, and then reminiscing about them at this time. Everybody during this time, usually it could be a very joyous time for people or a very sad time for
very
people.
Sad, yeah.
And it's definitely when you think about the people who can't be there with you. Mm-hmm. Which I find really interesting because Prince was never really a holiday person anyway, but I think loneliness resonated with him. But I think even though he wasn't into Christmas like that, he could still very much draw those feelings that the people who are lonely that time of year, can feel.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Famously, he didn't celebrate birthdays because he didn't want to kind of label himself. And then, of course, after he became Jehovah's Witness, he didn't celebrate Christmas either.
Right.
But even then, he wasn't really super into Christmas. As far as my research shows, he wasn't super into it anyway.
No,
but he was respectful of others. So, in 84, when, on Christmas Eve, he had scheduled an early concert so that people could go home and be with their families, which is really cool. I mean, that's just a cool thing to do,
Absolutely. And people still protested against him regardless.
They did. Yeah. I think the sign said something like Prince of Peace, not Prince of Porn or something like that.
Yes. Yes. He battled that kind of stuff, which is interesting because a lot of his music, I think he draws people in not only with his musical genius, but with it, lyric wise, I feel like, some of it's provocative, but he also has a lot of spiritual lyrics,
yes.
And maybe not in the traditional way, and I think that's kind of something that I saw, I wasn't aware of it, but I think it's something that drew me in even as a young person. I studied his music like, it was almost like poetry to me and I was trying to decipher, but a lot of it had a lot of spiritual meaning to it. And a lot of the things he said, he would flip from, being the erotic to the spiritual very easily.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy in a person because you don't really get that yin and yang in one person. Most of us are just we're either mostly yin with a little yang or mostly yang with a little yin. But a lot of his music was, it was almost like a 50-50 split, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's balance.
It's really interesting to see an artist like that because where do you place them? And I think when Wendy and Lisa joined the group, they kind of pushed him more towards pop. And after they left, he kind of started going more back towards the R&B, funk, dance, kind of thing. Of course, experimenting with hip hop. But it's like, where does all that really, how do you classify? And I think you really can't, because he was so eclectic in his tastes. He did a bit of everything.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Uh,
For sure.
yeah.
It's hard to believe that he's considered like a pop, musician. Obviously, if you know like all of his work. I think the Purple Rain era was the biggest thrust into that. But prior to, with Soft and Wet and even Purple Rain, I mean, I don't really think that would even flow into that, because he had some pretty, I don't know how you would categorize it, but those songs I don't think you would really consider pop either. I think once Purple Rain hit, it was like, okay, and that's what pretty much what thrust him into the spotlight, maybe even more than he really wanted to be.
And I think you're right there. It seems like he was never quite really comfortable. He was almost more, even though he was such a showman. I mean, he was, fantastic performer. But in interviews and stuff, he was almost very like just introverted.
Very introverted.
So it's just one of those where he put on the persona, and he would go out there and give people the show that they wanted to see, and then but don't talk to me about kind of personal stuff.
Exactly. I'll never forget, he was on MTV when they used to do like TRL.
Oh yeah,
Total Request Live, and
wait, what's that? I don't know what you're talking about.
And I couldn't even believe that he was on it because of how introverted he was. And he was asked a question about what his favorite movie was or something, and he gave a very in-depth question or answer to the question, that was like talking about how movies are made and commercialized and all this stuff, and his beliefs, and the person just wasn't happy with it at all, and just and he was like, so he just like named a movie just to like get past the question. But it was just like nobody, and I think that was a great example of why he doesn't like to give interviews, because it's like he thinks so deeply about things and has like a broader answer, and it's not just like, oh, my favorite movie is this, But it was interesting to see, because he tried, but he was like visibly annoyed, and it was like, okay. He gave this beautiful answer, but this girl's like, but no, seriously, what's your favorite movie? And
yeah, that's not cool. Yeah, I mean, I can see how that would be hard for him, because I mean, everything that he did was like, I mean, was really profound to him. I mean, it seems like all his music meant so much to him. The process of making music meant so much to him. And so it's just, I could see how, no, that's not, I don't care about that. Just give me an answer. People want to know. I mean, so I can see how that would be super annoying. I mean, honestly.
He was not happy.
Yeah, I think, 1999 was relatively poppy. But it really, it wasn't until, you're right, till Purple Rain and that whole, and I think, and I can't remember the director's name at the moment, but I think, he just really knew how to sell the show. And after that, I mean, Prince was already a pretty big star, but that, like you said, really catapulted him to the next, next level fame-wise. And then of course he followed it up with my brain is failing me right now.
Under the Cherry Moon.
And the album. I don't know why.
Was that the Around the World?
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Around the World. Oh man. Forgive me, Prince fans. I had a brain fart. But I mean, with Around the World, and it was still pretty poppy, and we got a lot of great.
That's where your Raspberry Beret.
That's where Raspberry Beret came from, and then all of a sudden, he kind of just decides he's fed up with his band, and he kind of splits from them, and I think that's another reason why I like this one, because for me, the Revolution, I think, was his best backing band.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah. And it's not that the songs were better, because I mean the songs are still all amazing, but I just think they kind of gelled in a way that like New Power Generation didn't quite gel for me.
Right.
And Third Eye Girl, I think, was just too new. I didn't get to really know them as much.
Yeah, and that was just a totally different sound. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing, but I think there were the way music was going and the way Prince was going was like in two separate directions.
Two different directions, yeah.
Some people weren't able to appreciate his music and went more towards like what was more commercial. I think that happens with a lot of artists, but he had probably one of the bigger followings that kind of kept with it, because I feel like even Michael Jackson couldn't keep people hold as many as he wanted to once he kind of went in another direction as well.
Yeah. And I think that's just, it's like one of those where you got to follow the trends if you want to stay on top of the charts. But for a guy like Prince, he didn't care about being on top of the charts. He just wanted to release all his music.
Right.
It was about
now
the
there
music.
is an interview that he did where he was like very much like, oh, so now do I have to rap in my music? Like he was like very like adamant against that at some point. And I know he did throw some people in there that would kind of throw that element in, but he was like, yeah, I'm not doing that in my music.
Right. Yeah. Because he wanted to play his music, and stuff that spoke to him, like the song here. But it's just a lot of artists will jump on that bandwagon, and it's like, oh, this is relevant. Okay, this is what I'm doing now, and of course some fail, and most fail, and don't get to continue their heyday. Aerosmith kind of came back, they kind of jumped on that more poppy, bandwagon there. Change their sound just a little bit to accommodate that. And so Prince, I really respect him because he didn't do that.
Yeah, he did. And I think at the end of the day, like he just really was a musician, and he just was always going to stay true to what he wasn't going to try to change or alter what his vision was, regardless of where the trends were going. And he knew he had a strong enough following where it wouldn't matter. And then at the end of the day, I think that didn't even matter. Like he just was going to play what he wanted to play regardless.
Yep. Which is so cool. Yeah, I know. That's so cool. I like that. So in this song, again, he's backed by the Revolution, which I don't know why, but something about like right place, right time, right group of people. It fit. I mean, you had Bobby Z on drums. Of course, he was later replaced by Sheila E.
Yes.
We had Dr. Fink, who kind of stayed around for a little bit longer than most.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Dr. Fink just makes me laugh every time.
I know.
Like every time I see him.
He just lived up to it. He was like, I'm just going to wear this. And
I'm just wearing scrubs on stage. Yeah.
Yep.
And hey, I'm sure they're comfy.
I'm a nurse, so I can attest to that. They are.
Yeah, that's right. And poor Bobby Z, I love, because in Purple Rain, I mean, he's literally just wearing whatever Prince wears. The puffy shirt, he's got the puffy shirt. The purple jacket, he's got the purple jacket. I mean, so I mean, he's like all done up, and Dr. Fink just gets to wear scrubs. That's awesome.
Exactly.
And then we got Lisa on keyboards, also, and then Wendy, of course, on guitar, and then Mark Brown or Brown Mark, as they call him, on bass. Yeah. So I mean, it like they gelled, and I believe they're still together now. I think they reformed after Prince's death.
Yeah, they did, and I can't remember what award show it was. They performed, because I don't really watch award shows anymore, but I know that they performed on one of them together. And I always thought it was interesting too that the bass player was not part of the group in the movie Purple Rain, but kind of had his own band in Purple Rain.
Oh, well, I know Des Dickerson comes out in Purple Rain, and he was like the former guitarist, like basically
during Automatic and
Modern Air. I think he sings Modern Air, right? I want to be a modern air. Yeah.
Yes. I always forget his name. Yes.
Oh yeah. Hi, Kitty. Yeah, so the group is together, and I mean it's a great, I mean it's just a great song. The lyrics, so the chorus that we get is, last night I spent another lonely Christmas. Darling, darling, you should have been there. So right away, either she's left him somehow. Of course, your
Right.
first thought is like, she left him.
Right. Right.
Um, he says, because all the ones I dream about, you're the one that makes my love shout. See, you are the only one I care for. And that's like really Prince. I like the way he rhymes about and shout, even though it's not quite it's not quite the end of the line there. It's just something about it. It's just it works. It reminds me again of his lyrics of like Manic Monday, where he's like, I wish it were Sunday. That's my fun day. I don't have to run day. It's just kind of playful there, and the juxtaposition of like being playful on top of like, you're not here anymore. You're the only one I care for. I mean, it's just
Right.
it plays really well and just adds to that tension.
Right.
And then he goes into like a reminiscing kind of mode, which is cool. He's like, remember the time we swam naked in your father's pool? Boy, he was upset that night, but boy, was that ever cool. I mean,
right. And you're like, what does this have to do with Christmas?
That's right. That's right. But it makes sense. People reminisce on Christmas, It's like, oh, you remember that time? I mean, literally, you remember that time is like what people say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then he goes into, I saw your sister skating on the lake this afternoon, how she's grown. I mean, again, it's like the whole family thing. And you're just like, oh, this poor guy, he misses his girl. And at this point, we still don't know that she's like, spoilers, that she's dead.
Right. Right. She is deceased. Yes.
She is. Yeah, she has passed. We still don't know that. All we know is that she's left him, and so it's later on when you hear those lines and you're like, oh, okay. My bad. I thought you just did something to make her leave, but no, oh, well. But yeah, it's, I mean, they're not the most complex lyrics, but at the same time, they do tell the whole story, and you can picture everything as they progress. He's like, but of all your father's children, you're the finest of them all. You're brighter than the northern star. I mean, that's a great line. Brighter than the northern star.
He's deep like that.
Yep. And then of course he starts talking about, and this is something else you do. At least I've had experience of this. Like when you're lonely and you're like, Mom used to say, always trust your lover. He's like, well, now I guess that only applies to her because you promised me you'd never leave.
Right.
And here's the kicker. He goes, and then you died on the 25th day of December.
Like, whoa.
Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, okay, hold on. What's going on here? Because I thought she just left.
Right. Exactly. First I was, kind of getting mad at her, and now I'm like, whoa, I'm wrong for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, my bad. My bad.
Yeah, definitely.
So he tells a story that, they I guess aren't quite sure what got her, because they thought it was pneumonia, they thought it was strep, and the doctor was, and this is where this line trips me out every time I hear it, because it's so straightforward. He's like, your father said it was pneumonia, your mother said it was strep, but the doctor said you were dead. And I say it's senseless. It's like, well, but what was it? I mean, like
He's
my
like,
brain,
it doesn't matter what it was.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. The whole point is that she's just not there and he wants her to be there. But like my brain has to know. It's like, well, what was it? Was it pneumonia? Was it strep? Was it something else? And
exactly.
Oh man.
Strep seems a little unlikely, but
yeah, I doubt it. And so then this is like my favorite part of the whole song, where he's like, every Christmas night for 7 years now, I drink banana daiquiris till I'm blind, and I can hear you smiling.
That's my favorite part. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's so good. It's just such a good line.
Yeah.
It's because banana daiquiris. I mean,
I know who's drinking banana daiquiris.
That's exactly it. It's like strawberry. Okay, sure, why not?
Prince is never going to give you what you think everybody else is doing, for sure.
Ever. Nope.
But that is definitely my favorite line. Banana daiquiris. It almost makes you want to try one. Almost.
Yeah. it's been what, like 20 or 30 years now. I don't think I will.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying a banana daiquiri.
Like, I'm curious, but I'm not that curious.
Not at all.
I'll let Prince,
And I don't think he was drinking them either.
I don't think he was either. Yeah. He probably heard someone order one once and was like, "Ooh, I like that."
You can tell he's not a drinker because nobody says banana daiquiri.
No. Definitely not.
That's like the person rolling up to the bar who is not old enough to drink, and they're like, "What would you like? A banana daiquiri?" Like, no,
yeah, with their fake ID. They snuck
exactly.
in. Yeah,
exactly. That's hilarious.
And then, of course, we get the refrain again. So lyrically, I mean, it really takes you on a journey of, you're like, oh, okay, this guy, he's down and out, and then, oh, well, that's why, because his love's passed away, and he's trying to cope with it, which again is something that everyone can relate to. We all have experienced loss, and trying to cope with that is it's one of the hardest things we could do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But and the verses themselves, it's a lot of like just 1 and 4. He goes to the 4 chord, then he's on the minor 3 for a bit, then back to 1, and then 4, and then 1. Yeah, I mean, so it's musically pretty simple, but he does this thing rhythmically, where it's not like a very defined rhythmic phrase. He's just like, remember that time we swam naked? Just, it's like he just kind of throws it out, almost like he's talking and just thinking about it, off the top of his head. Hey, remember that? And so it's really genius, again, the way he does it. It's structured in such a way that it seems almost like just an off the cuff thought, even though he wrote it that way. And so I love stuff like that. I mean, it amazes me that people can think like that. And I'm a composer too, but stylistically I'm very different from Prince. And I
no.
Go figure. Yeah. But there's very few people that are similar to Prince. so I think I'm okay. I'm in a pretty good group.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's one of those where you hear the song and you're like, wow, that's good. And you just kind of groove to it. It's got that nice doom, bop, bop, just it kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, just a nice little kind of backbeat. And I really dig it. I really dig it a lot.
I do too. And I hope anyone who listens to this who has never heard it rushes out to listen to it after this, because I'm sure that with all this information, it's even more appealing.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a good song. And I think there's even a couple of different versions of it, right? There's like the standard one, and then there's like a longer cut.
And he only performed it once.
He only performed it live once. Yeah.
You can find that too on YouTube.
You can. Yeah. And it's good. It's a good performance. And I think it was after Baby I'm a Star.
Yes.
Before it's like,
and then Purple Rain was comes out after. Yeah.
It's like, let's get your energy up. Oh, let's
bring it down. Okay, now we're in Purple Rain. Purple Rain is the warm hug afterwards. That
you need it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense. If he really wasn't that into Christmas and it was just kind of a song that he wrote to express this feeling. And of course there were rumors about, he wrote it for someone that he knew that loved and passed away, but really it was just a song that he wrote. And, he could just make you feel those kind of things. He was just an evocative artist.
He's always been a mystery. He's never been straightforward about why he does anything.
Yeah.
But he always said, if you want to know what he thinks, listen to his music. So
yeah,
all of it relates in some way.
My favorite, I love Purple Rain. Under the Cherry Moon is not my favorite, although I still enjoy it because it's kind of quirky and odd, and it's just like, I can dig this. But
the album or the movie?
The movie itself.
The movie. Oh my gosh, I love that movie.
Like, I think I actually prefer Graffiti Bridge to
Yeah.
Cherry Moon, you know, but I've,
I love
I've
them all in different ways.
yes, yes. I think the thing about Graffiti Bridge that I don't like is that they just tried to. I think it came out too late. I think it needed to be closer to Purple Rain for it to be more successful. And so
Okay.
it came out like, in 1990, I believe, or around there,
Yeah.
91, right when like music in that R&B kind of setting was transitioning to something new. And so of course we get the young Tevin Campbell and his thing, but I
Oh,
think if it had come
that was awesome.
closer to Purple Rain, I think it would have been much more successful. Um,
I agree. I can see that, but I think people were expecting like a very literal sequel,
yeah, yeah,
and it was more, to me it appeared to be more like a dream than a sequel. Like
yeah,
I didn't really see it in reality. And I mean, it looked literally like it was just on like a set, like a Broadway set,
yeah,
you
it
know.
did.
It doesn't look like, I mean, because in Purple Rain they're clearly in the city,
Yes,
they're clearly on the streets.
yeah.
And Graffiti Bridge, like, especially the Graffiti Bridge, I mean, it was like looked like a set.
Yeah,
Like
they built that. Yeah.
you're in Manhattan, you're at the show, and
Yeah.
this is it. But I there's a lot of poetry about it to me that I like.
Yeah. I think that's why
A deep meaning.
and I think that's why I like it. I prefer it to Cherry Moon is
Yeah,
because it's more poetic. I mean, it's kind of odd, the whole angel thing, but I
yeah,
mean, it's just they tried for something different. And I get it.
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, I love Under the Cherry Moon. I'm just saying, of the three, I
yeah,
think it's my least favorite.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Under the Cherry Moon, I feel like is a very like uh sort of Black culture type movie too, where it's like sometimes if you're not really aware of some of
Mhm.
the things, that then it kind of goes over your head and you don't really
Gotcha.
understand it. And I think some of that came to play in that movie as well. And it was just like, I love it just because it's just like so different. Like
Yeah.
there's
It
literally
really is.
no
Yeah.
movie like
Yeah,
none.
I mean, it's How
Yeah,
Did This Get Made podcast covered it a couple of months ago, and it's funny because they said that Prince is basically like trying to do a film noir, where like he's the femme fatale essentially. It's like
which just so him. Which
yeah,
is so like
that's
he will
exactly right.
flip anything on its head and show you a different way. And he's been the one person who can do. I mean, the man walked around in heels and
Well,
makeup
yeah,
and could take anybody's woman from them. And
I
that's
guess he could. Isn't that
there
crazy?
was no toxic masculinity going on there at all. So,
No, no, just all raw sexuality.
yes.
um,
And nobody cared. Well,
no,
some
no.
people,
I mean, it's Prince. I mean,
yeah,
one of the ones that I loved, and it was I know there's been some controversy about if plagiarism and stuff like that, but I loved The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Like that's one of
yeah,
yeah, I really enjoy that song.
that's a beautiful song.
Yeah, yeah, that one, and I loved his soundtrack to Batman, 1989.
Oh, yes. I was just having a conversation about that with someone who wasn't even aware of it.
Really?
Oh my God. And Prince wanted to play the Joker so badly.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to be in that role, which I think he would have done a great job. But that soundtrack was genius. Like
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I watch the video all the time. But yes, that's a great, and that happens to be one of my favorite Batman movies only
Oh, me
because
too.
of
Yeah.
him. Like the music
Nice.
throughout the movie. This is great. Yeah.
So Danny Elfman actually took that Arms of Orion theme, which Prince kind of wrote as like the love theme, and he actually incorporated it into his music as the love theme for Bruce and Vicky. And so I thought that was really cool. That's how influential Prince is. The Danny Elfman was like, yeah, let's no, I like that. Let's do that. He wasn't too proud to say no, I'm writing my own love theme. He's
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. I listen to a lot of that almost daily. I have an 80s music playlist or 80s movie music playlist that I listen to, and I got Party Man, Trust,
Yes.
Electric Chair is actually really good. Bat Dance. Oh, the Bat Dance video blew my mind as a kid.
That's what I'm saying. I watched that because I have a YouTube video 80s playlist that I play when I'm like cleaning the house.
Yeah.
And that's one of the songs that's on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I loved it because he's like half Joker, half Batman, and it's just so good. And but he's got like clips of the movie in it, like some sampled dialogue, things like that. So I remember just loving it. And then when part 2 came out, I was like surprised they didn't go back to Prince.
Yeah. Their mistake.
Well, the movie part 2 wasn't as successful. I'm just saying. I wonder why.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh man, but all this talk, it does make me wonder. What would you say if you could would be your happiest memory or moment of Prince?
I would say the one time I saw him, I never unfortunately got to see him in concert. But the crazy thing is he was at he did the Essence Festival right before he passed away. Right. And I actually had tickets. I had tickets to go. I ended up getting deployed and I couldn't go. So I had to give the tickets away.
That's a heartbreak right there.
But I was I know, right? I was a young girl stationed in California and I was out in LA. And at a club underage because I was 17 when I joined the military. But anyway, so I was in this club. I was probably 19.
Mum's the word.
Right. I'm like, you can join the military and deploy, but you can't go to a club. So I think I was 19 at the time, and it was a club called the Glam Slam that was in LA.
Yeah.
And I actually had like a visual spotting of Prince. Didn't meet him, talk to him or anything like that, but just like the presence of him, I will never forget that. It was, and I am not a fangirl. Let me just say that. Like I do not I lived in New York for a long time. I'm not into the whole celebrity thing, but that was Prince, right? It's
yeah.
So that probably was my happiest moment, was the fact that I actually laid eyes on such a genius.
That's cool.
So
yeah,
I would have to say that's probably it.
That's cool. For me, I think it would be, because there's two that I can't really decide between, because I loved when I got, I listened to his albums. I loved it, but I didn't really collect any until I got his greatest hits, that double CD with the B-sides. And I just remember just putting it on, listening to it in my apartment in college, just loving every minute of it and just kind of jamming out. It's like, I want to hear that one again, and just being able to put it on again. So there was that. But so I think it was the Bat Dance video. I mean, I remember just wanting to own, because back then you could record videos, with your VCR. And so we would do that. We had whole videos full of, whole tapes full of videos from MTV back when they showed videos. And I just remember trying to record it and just watching it over and over again. And of course my parents would get mad at the, when he curses in the video, but because he does in the song, but he does. But I mean, it was one of those where it was I loved Batman. I thought it was so cool that he was both Batman and the Joker. I mean, just
genius.
The Vicky Vale lady comes out. I mean, it was.
I love that part.
Vicky Vale.
Exactly.
It's so good. I think that would be mine. I honestly think that would be it. Yeah.
I mean, I have so many great just Prince moments. Of just I think about I was obsessed with Graffiti Bridge, obsessed when I was younger, and would just watch it over and over and over again, trying to decipher what he was talking about. There's a lot of phrases in the movie that I still use today, but I mean, there's just so many. I mean, for me, performing like I said, the whole entire 1999 album for my parents as they sat and pretended like they were interested.
Pretended like they were into it.
I put on a whole show. I'm not even kidding.
That's so cool.
I cannot sing. So no, he's just, he, like I said, he's just been like a huge part of, my life, and just, he was just an amazing artist.
Yeah.
He gave us all a lot.
I remember it was my junior year of college, and my roommate was out of town, and so I had nothing. I think I had like 2 VHS tapes at the time, because all the VHS before them were my parents, so I didn't take them with me to college, but I did have my roommate's VCR there. And so he went out of town, and I remember I just walked to Half Price Books and I found a used copy of Purple Rain. And so I bought it, and just like the whole weekend, I think I watched it like 3 times that weekend. It was so good.
It is good. I think today there's things in that movie that people would find a lot of issue with.
Well, I mean, back then you could get away with more.
Music-wise, can't really find anything better than that, I don't think.
Yeah. But now we come to my favorite part of the show, which is a little segment I like to call To the Max. So this is where we sing our favorite parts of the song. It could be, it could be a melody that you really like. It could be a piece of dialogue, just, something that you really enjoyed.
Well, you already said my favorite part of it.
So as the guest, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh my goodness.
Just kind of set it up for us.
And it has to be this song?
It can be any song. I don't mind.
Because this song, I'll be honest with you. So I love this song, but this isn't really a song that I could, and you already said my favorite lyric. I had that down.
Well, I didn't sing it though. You could sing it.
But I can sing, I can do, I will do a Prince sound.
Okay, I'll take it. Sure, I'll take it.
All right, you ready?
Which, by the way, I gotta say, no one can scream like Prince can scream. He knows he can. Oh, really? Okay.
No. I'm not saying that I can. I'm just agreeing.
I was like, wow, this is going to be amazing.
No.
Okay.
This is just something I did a lot when I was younger, and my parents would just crack up because it was my Prince sound.
Okay. All right. I'll go for it.
All right. You ready?
Yeah. I can totally. Yeah.
I feel like I can go into like any of his songs. Like,
That's pretty much.
A lot. There you go. Now, right. Carie can mark down her most embarrassing moment of the day for today.
There you go. Well, for me, I went ahead and stuck with the song, and
yes,
I kind of mentioned it already, but I'm gonna try my best singing it here. And of course, I'm no Prince, but I'll do my best here. So he kind of, and it's funny because every time he comes back to it, he kind of changes the melody slightly, not only rhythmically, but as far as the notes as well, melodically. So let's see. So this is 'cause all the ones I dream about, you are the one that makes my love shout. See, you are the only one I care for. Something like that.
Oh, yay!
Something like that.
You're
I don't
win
know.
This one, buddy.
I don't think so.
You got my vote.
Oh man. But
now one wants to hear Carie B sing. I'm telling you.
No, I'm sure it's not.
My fiance would tell you, like, just move on. You don't even want to go there.
Oh no. But it does, it does make me wonder. G.I. Joe, they taught us that knowing is half the battle. What would you say is the other half?
And thank you for having that segment, because I will tell you that I say that to people all the time, and they have no clue what I'm talking about.
I feel your pain. Yeah. But what would you say is the other half?
So knowing is half. So how do you phrase? So knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. But anyway, So what am I adding to that again?
Just
Refresh my memory.
what you think the other half of the battle is.
The other half of the battle as far as the song is related?
Sure. It could be
Or
anything. I've heard all sorts.
okay. So knowing is half the battle, and knowing that Christmas is not always warm and fuzzy memories.
Ooh,
That would
that's
be mine.
good. That's better than mine. Mine is if knowing is half the battle, the other half is purifying yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
I don't know. That might be better. I like that. I like that. That's very, yes, I like that. That was excellent. You get my vote for two things.
Oh, by the way, I did get to meet Apollonia. So
Really?
that was kind of cool. Yeah. So in 98, I won the Tejano Music Awards scholarship.
Okay.
And as part of the rewards, it wasn't just a scholarship. We actually got to go to the Tejano Music Awards that year.
Okay.
And her and Eric Estrada, Ponch from Chips, were the
yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're the hosts. And so, the winners, we all got to like go backstage, and I got to meet some Tejano music artists. And I wasn't into Tejano. I just, it was one of those, I auditioned and I got it. So
that is awesome.
But I got to meet her. Yeah. And you can see there's clips on YouTube, and she's wearing that like silvery dress that I remember, and she's still gorgeous. And it was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a run-in with her, not personally, not a bad run-in at all. But do you know who D Nice is?
Yes.
Okay. So he did like Club Quarantine, where he would go live on his Instagram and play music, all different kinds of music. And it became very popular during, our quarantine period. And he's a huge Prince fan, and he does these Prince sets. And Apollonia was on there one time, and I just sent like a random question to her on Instagram, not even expecting her to respond, and she responded, and we had like a conversation. So
that's cool.
Seems to be really, really nice.
Yeah.
And genuine.
Yeah, she seemed cool.
And still, huge lover and supporter of Prince.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Her and Jill Jones.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, who was in Purple Rain and Graffiti Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love that story.
Yeah. She was cool. Some of the other folks weren't as much, but she was pretty cool. So there's that.
We'll just leave it there.
Yep,
she was awesome.
I won't name names, nothing like that. But she was pretty cool. So I can dig that.
Love that.
Carie, it's been so much fun talking with you.
Me too.
Final thoughts on Prince or Purple Rain or Another Lonely Christmas? Anything?
We hit a lot of stuff.
We did.
My final thoughts would be people need to go out and listen to Another Lonely Christmas if they have not listened to it. And, it was interesting because, I knew about the song when we first talked about it. Or when you were telling me that's what we were going to talk about and things like that. But I was like, let me see what other people are saying about it. And one of the interesting things was, they talked about how it never got really put into rotation as far as like other Christmas songs. And it's because it was kind of just overshadowed by the time of when it came out and the other songs that were out and things like that, which I think is a shame because like you mentioned before, we do have some Christmas songs that aren't the light upbeat, Christmas nostalgia kind of Christmas songs. So I would just encourage people, just to listen to it. If not just to, not necessarily because you're looking for something that's super Christmassy, but just to hear another side of, Prince, if you're a Prince.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's a great song. I don't know if it's everyone's cup of tea, but, I think there's at least lyrically, there's something for, that everyone can kind of, or most people, I should say, can kind of relate to. And I think a lot of people would like the music too, but I think because it was the B-side to I Would Die for You, from Purple Rain, I think you're right. It just got buried. That plus the fact he only played it once live. It was just, I think it was kind of just like, I can write a Christmas song and then, all right. Or
exactly.
And I don't even know if he intended to write like a Christmas song or if it was just, he was getting his feelings out and it kind of eventually became that. But either way, I think it really works.
And because it was literally at Christmas time when he
That's
wrote
right.
it.
Yeah.
So, he was just looking at, this is Christmas time, so this is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, great album. Great album, great song. Great performer. Great musician.
I agree. I celebrate him every day.
Yeah, same here.
Great music.
Same here. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I had a really great time.
Yeah, me too. You got to come back on and talk something else soon.
Absolutely.
Maybe
I would love that.
Trading places or something.
Oh my gosh.
Anthony.
Yes,
No,
yes.
just kidding.
Yes, bring on Anthony.
I think actually all the elves didn't like it, but we'll
they did not. Oh, they
we'll have
not.
a good time with it. It's
a lot
such
of stuff that I like, which they should actually talk to me. Come on, they should all come on and talk to me about some of this stuff.
Challenge extended.
But I love them. I love them so much.
They're good folks. Yeah, they're some of my favorite folks. So,
but I will go on record saying that Anthony is my favorite. I will say that.
Ooh,
that's the New Yorker in me.
Probably, there you
go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But on that note, I'm going to end it by saying, last night I spent another lonely, lonely Christmas. Darling, you should have been there. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling like drinking banana daiquiris, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us reach more people, but you also get a free sticker. Now, don't forget to vote. Later, dudes.
Hello, this is Todd Killian from the Christmas Clatter podcast. What makes Christmas special to you? Is it the movies or the music, the food or family, the gifts or decorations? Maybe those quiet moments of reflection. Whatever it is, join me for Christmas Clatter, a monthly podcast dedicated to everything that makes Christmas special. Visit ChristmasClatter.com for all social media links and find Christmas Clatter podcast on all podcast apps. Thank you, and remember, keep Christmas hope alive every day.